It takes a lot of players, bankers, brokers, law firms, consultants, developers, to put affordable housing deals together. Over the past 30 years, housing tax credits have helped build more than 2.5 million affordable units. The program costs about $8 billion a year, an amount that's been growing. But that hasn't kept up with the need for affordable housing, and that lack of housing makes for a booming market.
No More Channel is committed to creating awareness on how to tackle various life situations and encourage personal growth. All you need to know about housing. Why affordable housing is built in areas with high crime, few jobs and struggling schools. What is considered affordable housing? The term affordable housing is used to describe housing, rental or owner-occupied, that is affordable, no matter what one's income is. The U.S. government regards housing costs below 30% of one's income to be affordable. The Federal Department of Housing and Urban Development (HUD) defines an affordable dwelling as one that a household can obtain for 30% or less of its income. So, by this definition, a dwelling is considered affordable for low-income families if it costs less than 24% of the area median income. Is there a housing crisis in America? The United States housing bubble was a real estate bubble affecting over half of the U.S. states. Housing prices peaked in early 2006, started to decline in late 2006 and 2007, and reached new lows in 2012. America's housing crisis has reached emergency levels. A person working full-time, paid minimum wage, cannot afford a two-bedroom apartment in any county in the country. Nearly half of all American renters spend over 30% of their income on housing. More than 12 million spend at least half their income on rent. A housing crisis may occur anywhere where affordable housing becomes extremely scarce. Housing crisis may more specifically refer to homelessness in the United States. Subprime mortgage crisis, mainly in the United States. What is causing housing crisis? The immediate cause of the crisis was the bursting of the United States housing bubble, which peaked in approximately 2005-2006. The causes of the subprime mortgage crisis. Hedge funds, banks, and insurance companies caused the subprime mortgage crisis. Demand for mortgages led to an asset bubble in housing. When the Federal Reserve raised the federal funds rate, it sent adjustable mortgage interest rates skyrocketing. Why do we need affordable housing? Decent, affordable housing is important to families. Affordable homes also support the local workforce so they can live close to their jobs. Shorter commutes allow workers to spend more time with their families, while the community benefits from reduction in traffic congestion, air pollution, and expenditures on roads. It also fulfills a basic human need for shelter, but it also contributes to the well-being of both parents and children. Affordable housing also frees up funds within families' tight budgets to spend on healthcare and food. Who qualifies for affordable housing assistance? The most important qualifier is income. For most housing programs, the general qualification requires that the household makes less than 50% of the area median income (AMI) of that area to qualify. The criteria for affordable housing states that it must be provided at a level at which the mortgage payments on the property should be more than that would be paid in rent on council housing, but below market levels. It must also be able to remain at an affordable price for future eligible households. There are other significant qualifiers such as housing and criminal history. Past evictions and owing money to a housing authority may make it difficult to qualify. Having a criminal record may make it difficult for a person to receive housing, but it does not automatically disqualify them. Generally, offices are more lenient to persons with an arrest record, but persons with a conviction may find greater difficulty in qualifying. Furthermore, felons face much greater difficulty in qualifying, especially if it was a violence or drug-related sentence. Each housing office operates differently, but may allow persons with a criminal record to qualify based on the length of time since the offense occurred and the severity of the crime. Sex offenders will not qualify for affordable housing. Lack of affordable housing has resulted in a high percentage of homeless people all over the U.S. according to the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development's annual homeless assessment report. As of 2018, there were around 553,000 homeless people in the United States on a given night. Homelessness emerged as a national issue in the 1870s. Some of the causes of homelessness were: Number 1. Lack of affordable housing. Number 2. Unemployment. Number 3. Poverty. Number 4. Mental illness and the lack of needed services. Number 5. Substance abuse. The major difference between H.U.D housing and the Section 8 housing programs is that those accepted into the Section 8 program rent from private landlords, and a portion of their rent is covered by the Section 8 program, while those accepted into the H.U.D program pay subsidized rent for properties owned by public housing. Who qualifies for H.U.D? Housing and Urban Development. H.U.D is not a lender for homes. Anyone with the cash or an approved loan can qualify for a H.U.D property. For Federal Housing Administration insured properties, buyers can qualify for FHA financing with only 3.5% down, with a minimum credit score of 580. Federal Housing Administration uninsured properties don't qualify for further Federal Housing Administration loans. Public housing is limited to low-income families and individuals. An H.U.D determines your eligibility based on: Number 1. Annual gross income. Number 2. Whether you qualify as elderly, a person with a disability, or as a family, and Number 3. U.S. citizenship or eligible immigration status. H.U.D also released multifamily tax subsidy program income limits for FY 2019, which are used for low-income housing tax credit and tax-exempt bond properties. How do I apply for H.U.D? H.U.D helps apartment owners offer reduced rents to low-income tenants. To apply, contact or visit the management office of each apartment building that interests you. To apply for either type of help, visit your local public housing agency. How does Section 8 work? The Housing Choice Voucher Program, often referred to as Section 8, allows tenants to apply for housing assistance through the government. As a landlord, you'll want to consider whether or not renting to Section 8 tenants is right for you. Let's listen to Morris and Natalie, who are Section 8 landlords.
What is Section 8 housing? Everyone, I'm Clayton Morris.
I'm Natalie Morris.
We're longtime real estate investors, and we've rented to a lot of Section 8 tenants over the years.
Is the common term for the housing assistance program. So it's the government qualifying people as low-income tenants, and they help pay the rent. So the way this usually works is that you go to the government and say, I need a little extra help to live in this area where I work and have my kids go to school. And they look at your finances and they say, yes, you're a hardworking person, but it does seem like you can't quite make rents in this area. And they certify you as a Section 8 tenant. Then you go out and find your own apartment or house or whatever it is you want to rent. I don't think they do it with a boat. I think
No.
it has to be a house. And
Might be a house.
that you're going to rent, right? Let's say you say it's $500 and I have qualified for $400 of rental income assistance. So that means that the government is going to pay you, Clayton the tenant, the landlord, $400 a month, and me, Natalie the tenant, will have to come up with the extra $100.
How does Section 8 work? The Housing Choice Voucher Program provides housing assistance in the form of Section 8 vouchers to low-income families. The Section 8 vouchers are used to help the family pay for housing. Local public housing agencies, PHA, administer vouchers based on household income and family size, and recipients are free to choose any housing that meets program requirements. Section 8 and public housing programs do not issue a credit check, but Section 8 landlords likely will, as well as individual affordable housing properties. Even if you are placed on a waiting list, it is not a guarantee that you qualify for housing. Many housing offices do not determine eligibility until your name reaches the top of the waiting list. In general, Section 8 housing program follows the below structure. The individual household applies for the Section 8 Housing Choice Voucher Program. The applicant is likely placed on a waiting list that may take more than 1 to 2 years. During this time, the applicant can also choose to accept project-based vouchers. Once the applicant is approved for a tenant-based voucher, they can begin to look for an apartment or home. The applicant can only use the voucher at properties that accept Section 8 vouchers and meet Section 8 requirements, including a physical inspection. Once the property is approved, PHAS will pay a portion of rent on their behalf. If the applicant is approved for project-based housing vouchers, a PHA can refer the applicant to a project-based assistance property owner with a vacant unit. If the applicant is screened and accepted by the property owner, the PHA will pay the portion of rent on their behalf. Steps to get Section 8 housing. Number 1. Find your local public housing agency, PHA. This is the first place to start. Number 2. Determine if you are eligible. The PHA will help determine if you are eligible for Section 8 assistance. This is based on both the family size and the total annual gross income in general. The income may not exceed 50% of the area's median income. Section 8 is also limited to U.S. citizens and certain categories of non-citizens with eligible immigration status. Number 3. Obtain an application for the Section 8 Housing Choice Voucher Program. Applications for the Housing Choice Voucher Program are entirely free and, depending on the PHA, will available online, by mail or at the local housing authority's office. Number 4. Fill out and submit the Section 8 Housing Choice Voucher Program application. Typically, the application will ask for the following from all household members: name, date of birth, social security number, and gross income of those applicable. Other requirements might include mailing addresses, email addresses, housing history, criminal history, phone numbers, and more. Number 5. Find out waiting list status. After the housing office processes the application, individuals and families will either be rejected or placed on a waiting list. Even if applicants are eligible, applications can be rejected because of high demand or because they weren't chosen in a random lottery. Number 6. Confirm waiting list placement. Unfortunately, many waiting lists can be years long. It can take up to a few months to process the application, but once it is processed, housing authorities will either confirm waiting list placement by mail or by logging into an online portal. Number 7. Once you receive your voucher, find qualified housing. Individuals must find housing that accepts Section 8 vouchers and meets program requirements, including a physical inspection. Once housing is secured, PHAS will pay the rent directly to the landlord. Section 8 eligibility requirements: your family size, income limits, your citizenship status, any previous evictions you've had. Once you are chosen for Section 8, you have to meet the following obligations. After choosing a home, the family signs a minimum 1-year lease with the landlord. The tenant may be required to pay a security deposit before moving in. When the lease is up, the landlord may initiate a new lease or allow the family to remain in the home on a month-to-month basis. After the family moves in, they are expected to follow the rules of the lease agreement, continue to meet all program requirements, pay rent on time, keep the housing unit in good condition, and notify the PHA of any changes in income or family composition. While receiving voucher assistance, no family members can engage in drug-related or violent criminal activity or commit fraud, bribery, or any other criminal act. What are the benefits of affordable housing? Affordable housing located near public mass transit can help low-income residents save money, access better jobs, improve health, and reach critical community services. Affordable housing contributes to significant economic impacts, including increases in local purchasing power, job creation, and new tax revenues. Do developers have to provide affordable housing? When a housing developer gets planning permission, they are normally required by the council to make a number of the homes they build officially affordable. But the less affordable housing a developer builds, the more profit they could make, so the developer deploys the viability assessment. Let's look at buying a home other than renting one. For many people, owning a home is the fulfillment of the American dream. For others, it is their worst nightmare. Purchasing a home is one of the biggest financial decisions you will make in your life. So, before you decide to buy, carefully consider the pros and cons of homeownership. While buying property in the US is rather common, it also comes with a lot more red tape than renting. Buying property in the US is way more common than renting. This is also why many real estate agents focus on houses and apartments which are for sale and clients who are interested in buying, as opposed to renting. If you are moving to the US for a longer period of time or even plan to settle down there for good, buying a home makes a lot of sense. Still, the entire process of buying a house or an apartment is incredibly complex, and there is a lot you have to keep in mind when buying property in the US. For foreigners, you do not need a green card, a particular type of visa, or even US citizenship to be eligible to do so. However, before you can purchase your dream home in the United States, you need to secure an individual taxpayer identification number. This number is issued to foreigners who are not eligible to obtain a social security number. What is a good reason to buy a house? You'll pay less tax and save money. The newer the mortgage, the higher the interest payment each month. That means greater tax breaks. Real estate taxes are deductible, providing great benefits to the homeowner. Homeowners often find that owning a home costs substantially less than renting a home. What are the advantages of owning a home? Number 1. Greater privacy. Number 2. Homes typically increase in value, build equity, and provide a nest egg for the future. Number 3. Your costs are predictable and more stable than renting because they're ideally based on a fixed-rate mortgage. Number 4. The interest and property tax portion of your mortgage payment is a tax deduction. Number 5. There's pride in homeownership, which also closely ties you to your community. Number 6. Affordable options exist, like purchasing a lower-cost manufactured home. What are the disadvantages of owning a home? Number 1. Home ownership is a long-term financial commitment. Number 2. You're responsible for all maintenance on your home. This can include inexpensive repairs like fixing a broken toilet to complex and costly repairs like replacing a furnace. Number 3. Owning a home ties you to your community, making it more difficult to suddenly pick up and leave a location. Number 4. Although mortgage payments are usually fixed, they're generally higher than rent payments. Number 5. Buying a home requires a down payment, closing costs and moving expenses. Number 6. The value of your house may not increase especially during the first few years. Number 7. Borrowing against your home equity to help you with a debt consolidation, for example, can leave you house poor. It's better to rent than to buy in today's housing market. Fast rising home prices and higher mortgage rates have made it cheaper to rent a home than buy and own one. Renting and reinvesting the savings from renting, on average, will outperform owning and building home equity in terms of wealth creation. But paying rent is still a waste of money, right? Anyone can waste money by making bad spending decisions and relying too much on credit. But on its own, renting is actually a smart and flexible financial choice. When you rent an apartment, it's best to think of it as simply exchanging money for a place to live. How much do you get back in taxes for owning a home? The main tax benefit of owning a house is that the imputed rental income homeowners receive is not taxed. Although that income is not taxed, homeowners still may deduct mortgage interest and property tax payments, as well as certain other expenses from their federal taxable income. Starting in 2018, however, tax reform imposed a cap on the amount of state and local taxes you can deduct, which includes property taxes. The majority of filers can now only deduct up to $10,000 in property and income or sales tax on their 2018 tax returns. Are home improvements tax deductible? For tax purposes, a home improvement includes any work done that substantially adds to the value of your home, increases its useful life, or adapts it to new uses. If you use your home purely as your personal residence, you cannot deduct the cost of home improvements. These costs are non-deductible personal expenses. So do you get a tax refund for buying a house? Though you can no longer take advantage of the first-time home buyer tax credit, you can still save a lot of money on your taxes through other tax breaks. The primary deductions any homeowner can benefit from include property taxes, mortgage interest and insurance and mortgage points. You can also get a first-time home buyer tax credit by searching for first-time homebuyer programs in the state you are purchasing in. Considering the high cost of owning a home and some of the disadvantages that come with renting a home or an apartment, you might be able to leave rent-free if you, number 1. List a room with Airbnb. Number 2. Get enough roommates to cover your mortgage payment. Number 3. House sit for others. Number 4. Find a rent-for-work situation. Number 5. Find work as a live-in nanny or pet sitter. Number 6. Manage an apartment building. Number 7. Live with a relative and do chores for rent. Number 8. Move back in with your parents. It is up to an individual to measure the benefits and cons that come with either buying a new home and renting under H.U.D or Section 8. I hope all that I have talked about in this video has been informative, especially for those who did not understand how housing works, and also to guide foreigners who may want to buy or invest in property in the United States. Thanks for watching. Kindly like, share and subscribe for more videos. Know More channel is committed to creating awareness on how to tackle various life situations and encourage personal growth.